Next, we will focus on trinomials with leading coefficient not equal to 1 in the form ax squared plus bx plus c. I call these the hard trinomials. They're a little bit more tricky than the leading coefficient of 1, which are easier trinomials. So before we factor, again, the same that we did before, we're going to distribute and look for patterns. So some examples of the harder trinomials are where the leading coefficient is not 1. Notice this 12x squared, that's not 1x squared, it's 12, it's nothing other than 1. Also, the 12 can't factor out as a GCF, so we're going to have to deal with this 12. Again, the next one's 8x squared, and that's not equal to 1, and then 6x squared, again, that's not equal to 1. So let's first explain why these are so much more tricky than the easy trinomials. So to show you that, what I want to do is just distribute here. So this gets me 15x squared plus 12x plus 10x plus 8. And then the next thing you would do is add these two middle terms together, and I get 15x squared plus 22x plus 8. So this is going forwards, and what my goal is to start here and end here. Okay, so I would like to go backwards. So I even actually have the answer written in front of me. But if I take a minute and I just black this out right here. Now you don't have to necessarily do that. I'm just trying to make sure that you can't, see where you're looking at. But if you're just looking at the trinomial and you're trying to get to the two binomials, our factors, I can clearly see where this 15 came from. This 15 came from the 3x times the 5x. That is so very easy to see. Then I'm going to look at the 8. Can you tell where the 8 came from? Well, sure I can. That's the 2 times the 4. I can totally see that. So the thing that's a little bit tricky is the 22x. Where in the world did the 22x come from? Well, once I unblack this out here, you can see that the 22x came from the 12x and the 10x. But when I blacked that out, you couldn't see where it came from at all, right? So the 12x came from the outside numbers, and the inside number times the inside number, it's got me 10x. But if I black out that middle 9, you don't know. So the question is, if I start with 15x squared plus 22x plus 8, how am I supposed to know where this 22 came from when I'm trying to factor it? That's why this is so tricky. The first term, ax squared, that's pretty easy. I can see where that comes from. The c, yeah, I can see where that comes from. It's this middle b term. That's the stinky part. That's the one that makes this so much more difficult. Now, there are several methods that you can use to factor trinomials with leading coefficient not equal to 1. But all of these methods are just true variations of the following two methods. So the two methods we're going to be talking about are guess and check and the AC method, also called grouping or split the middle term. So if I use those other words, they're interchangeable. Now I'm going to show you both methods, but what I really need you to understand is you only need to know one. Out of all the things that I've taught you in factoring, you need to know all of them. This is the first time you only need to know one of these, okay? And that doesn't happen very much in math, where I can say, oh yeah, you don't really need to know one of these. And once you find that you like one method over the other method, then what I want you to do is just continue to use that method until you get really, really good at it. So we're going to focus on guess and check first. What I want you to do is list all of the factors of A and all of the factors of C. Now the reason we do that A and C is because those are the factors we can see. Remember when we just talked about why this is a little bit trickier? Is because I can see the factors where the factors of A come from. I can see where the factors of C come from. It's that B that gets a little bit stinky, okay? So next I want you to pick a pair of factors from the A list and pick a pair of factors from the C list. And we're going to multiply to check to see if those products actually do add up to be the middle term. Or sometimes we call that the B term. So, if so, then you have your answer. And then if not, well, you just got to try again. That's why this is called guess and check. Clearly, if you're guessing, you might not get it right on the first try. Lastly, you need to make sure you're checking for a GCF. So on the first problem, there is no GCF, so I'm going to go ahead and go straight to step 1, which says list all the factors of A. So the factors of A could be 1x times 12x, it could be 2x times 6x, or 3x times 4x. Those are the only ways we can get to 12. List the factors of C. Okay, well the factors of C, the only way to get to 5 is 1 times 5. Yay, I love that there's only one choice there. That's going to make my problem a whole lot easier when I'm guessing and checking. Now I've done this for quite some time, and I recommend that you always start at the bottom of your list and work your way up. It usually gets your answer quicker. And I'm trying to save you as much time as possible on this method. I really like guess and check method, and if you kind of are wavering between one method or the other, I recommend using guess and check. It's going to be faster for you in the long run. Now when I used guess and check, when I was taught guess and check when I was in school, they told me just to pick something from the first list and pick something from the last list. So we're going to go ahead and plug in 3x and 4x. And they told me to write it out horizontally. I'm going to show you a little bit shorter method in just a minute, so if you don't want to write it down right now, that's fine, because I'm going to show you how to do this just a little bit quicker. And then they told me to pick something from the C list, okay, and we're going to plug that in. I don't know what my signs are at the moment, so I'm just going to go ahead and distribute and check. Okay, so I guessed, I picked one from this list, I picked one from this list, and I told you to start at the bottom, and I'm checking, so I'm distributing. Well, 3x times 4x is 12x squared. Is anyone really surprised about that? You probably shouldn't be, because we started with 12x squared. We're the ones that picked 3 times 4 to make it 12x squared. So clearly this should be 12x squared. That should not be any big surprise. And then I get 15x, 4x, and 5. Now, and again, is 5 a big surprise? It shouldn't be. We're the ones that picked the 5 this way, 1 times 5, in order to get 5. What are the two ones that are a little bit surprising? It's the 15 and the 4. Those are the two that we're really concerned about, so that they add up to negative 17. With any positives and negatives, can I combine 15x and 4x to mean negative 17? Well, I don't think so. There's no way those are going to add up to mean negative 17. I guessed. I checked. And it didn't work. So what my teachers told me to do when I was in school is just erase this or start again, which got me a little bit frustrated because I would get holes in my paper and it would frustrate me a little bit. And then I got to the point where I'm like, well, why am I erasing this 12x squared and the 5x at the bottom? I shouldn't have to, because I know that those are going to turn out to be the same every time. So then I had to erase all this other stuff here, and I got holes in my paper, and that made me angry. So, and then sometimes if I erase, I forgot what I tried last time, which is also frustrating. So this time I'm going to try 3x and 4x like I did last time, but I'm going to switch the 1 and the 5. Instead of putting 1 on the left and 5 on the right, I'm going to switch that. When I distribute, I get 12x squared again. Duh, I knew that. I'm the one that picked it to be 12x squared. And then I get 3x, and then I get 20x, and then I get 5. But duh, I knew it was going to be 5. I'm the one that picked 5. So can I use 3 and 20 to get to a negative 17? Sure I can. I can use a negative 20 and a positive 3. Now I have to put my signs back in, so the positive 3, that was this term right here. So to make that positive, I need to put the plus over there, which again confused me when I was in school. Why did the plus go to the opposite side? But that's because it's FOIL, F-O, outside before inside. And this negative came and went to that side to make the 20, because that's the 20. So that confused me a little bit, but nonetheless, I got my answer. So this is your solution. So there's the things I don't like about this method is I have to erase. I don't like erasing because it makes holes in my paper. And my signs go to the opposite side, and that gets a little confusing. So although I love guess and check, I would prefer if you guys would write it vertically. I found this method out when I was teaching, and I just absolutely love it. I wish I knew it when I was in school. So instead of putting the 3x and the 4x horizontally, I'm going to put the 3x and the 4x vertically, and then I'm going to pick from the other list 1 and 5, and I'm not going to multiply all of the terms. We've already decided 3x times 4x is 12x squared. I am the one that picked 3x and 4x from the list of 12, so we know that's going to be 12x squared, and I don't really care to multiply out the 1 and the 5 to get to 5. I know that. The only two that I don't know are the outside term and the insides of FOIL. So if I multiply here, I'm getting 4x, and if I multiply across, I'm getting 15x. Can 4 and 15 add to the middle term 17? Well, no. And usually I do this part of my work on the side of my paper, or like in the margins, you know, the margins of your paper. You know, the paper where you have holes in your paper. I often do my work over here and then my actual work on my paper. So that might save me a little bit of space. So that one didn't work. So I use that off to my side of my scratch paper. So what I'm going to do next is I'm not going to erase. I'm just going to keep moving on, and I'm going to switch them 5 and 1. So when I cross multiply, I'm getting 20x and 3x. Can I use 20x and 3x to get to my middle term, negative 17? And I can. It's a negative 20 and a positive 3. And here's one of my favorite things about this whole process is my signs just move right in. If that's a negative sign, then the negative sign goes on that term. If that's a positive sign, then that positive sign goes there. So my solution is 3x minus 5 and 4x plus 1. So you can write them horizontally and distribute them out, but I really like this vertical method. So we're going to go ahead and practice that again.